There are moments in life when everything feels perfect. Like a carefully crafted painting, every brushstroke in place, every color blending harmoniously. For me, that painting was my life with Mark. We met in college, a whirlwind romance that quickly deepened into something profound. He was everything I thought I wanted: charismatic, intelligent, ambitious, and with a laugh that could chase away any shadow. We built our world together, brick by brick, dream by dream. There was the tiny apartment we furnished with hand-me-downs and thrift store finds, the late-night study sessions fueled by cheap coffee, the endless conversations about our futures. We planned our careers, our first home, even the names of our future children. It wasn't just love, it was a partnership, a true joining of souls. We were inseparable, that everyone admired, perhaps even envied. Our wedding day was straight out of a fairy tale. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows as I walked down the aisle, Mark's eyes meeting mine, brimming with a love that felt as vast as the ocean. He promised forever, to cherish and protect, to be my constant. And I, with every fiber of my being, believed him. I believed in us. We bought our dream home a few years later, a charming house with a sprawling garden that I poured my heart into. Mark's career in tech was skyrocketing, and I was thriving in my own creative field. We had the dinner parties, the weekend getaways, the comfortable rhythm of a life well lived and deeply shared. We were, by all accounts, living the dream. The kind of dream where you wake up every morning and feel a quiet gratitude settle in your heart. We'd conquered challenges, celebrated victories, and supported each other through every twist and turn. But sometimes, the most beautiful paintings hide the darkest secrets. Sometimes, the most perfect illusions are just that, illusions. And when the canvas begins to crack, when the colors start to bleed, the truth that emerges can be more devastating than any lie. Looking back now, the signs were there, faint at first, like whispers on the wind. Small changes, easily dismissed, rationalized away by a heart that desperately wanted to believe in the perfection it had so carefully constructed. A late night here, a forgotten detail there. A phone always just out of reach, always face down. Little anomalies in the grand design of our life. But when you're wrapped in the warmth of what you believe is true love, your mind is remarkably good at ignoring the chill. It tells you it's stress, it's work, it's just how things are. It tells you anything but the truth you're not ready to face. And so, I kept believing, kept painting my perfect picture, completely unaware of the masterpiece of deceit being crafted right alongside it. The masterpiece that would eventually shatter everything I knew. It began subtly, as betrayals often do. Not with a bang, but with a slow, insidious creep. Mark, once so attentive, started becoming distant. His phone, which used to be an extension of his hand, suddenly became a guarded secret. He'd take calls in other rooms, his voice low, his back to me. When I'd ask who it was, he'd offer vague answers about work, new clients, pressing deadlines. And I, trusting fool that I was, accepted them. Why wouldn't I? This was Mark, my Mark, the man who'd promised me forever. He started working longer hours, or so he said. Dinner plans canceled last minute, weekend trips postponed. He'd come home late, smelling faintly of a perfume I didn't recognize, explaining it away as a colleague's scent from a crowded elevator. My gut, however, began to whisper. That persistent, nagging feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. It started as a tiny knot in my stomach, growing tighter with each passing day. I found myself scrutinizing his explanations, replaying conversations in my mind, searching for inconsistencies. A stray receipt for a fancy dinner for two from a restaurant we hadn't visited. A text message notification that flashed on his screen, only to be quickly swiped away before I could read it. Each incident, on its own, seemed trivial. But strung together, they formed a disturbing pattern. Was I being paranoid? Was I imagining things the Mark I knew wouldn't lie to me? The Mark I loved wouldn't betray me? Would he? The internal battle was excruciating, tearing at my peace of mind. I desperately wanted to dismiss my fears, to cling to the image of our perfect life. But the threads of that perfection were starting to unravel, one by one. One evening, while Mark was working late, I felt an irresistible urge to tidy his desk. Not to snoop, I told myself, but just to organize the clutter. And there, tucked beneath a stack of old papers, was a small, beautifully wrapped gift box. It wasn't my birthday, nor was it any special occasion for me. My heart pounded. Who was it for? My mind raced through possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. I carefully unwrapped a corner, revealing a delicate silver locket. My stomach churned. This was not something he would buy for a colleague. This was intimate. This was personal. My hands trembled as I carefully rewrapped it, placing it back exactly where I found it. But the perfect illusion had been shattered. The painting was no longer just cracked, it was gaping open, revealing a horrifying darkness beneath. The knot in my stomach had tightened into a cold, hard stone. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that my perfect life was a lie. And the man I loved, the man who had promised me forever, was at the heart of it. The truth was out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for me to find it. And I knew, deep down, that I had to. The locket was the trigger. It unleashed a determination in me I never knew I possessed. The denial, the whispers of doubt, they were replaced by a cold, calculating resolve. I needed proof. I needed to know the full extent of the betrayal. The next few days were a blur of feigned normalcy, a performance I hoped would fool Mark into a false sense of security. I smiled, I listened, I pretended everything was fine, all while my mind was racing, plotting, piecing together fragments of evidence. I became a silent detective in my own home, observing his every move, every glance, every hurried text. The pain was a constant companion, a dull ache that throbbed beneath my chest, but it fueled my search. I wasn't looking for confirmation, I was looking for the undeniable truth. The opportunity arose on a Friday evening. Mark announced he was going out with colleagues for a late-night strategy session. The usual vague explanations, delivered with a practiced ease that now sounded utterly hollow. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I went to work. I knew his habits, his digital footprint. I remembered an old tablet he rarely used, still logged into his cloud accounts. My hands trembled as I navigated through his files. And there it was, not just texts, but photos. Pictures of him, laughing, intimately embracing another woman. Screenshots of travel bookings. Heartfelt messages, filled with declarations of love and future plans that mirrored the ones we had made. Pages and pages of a secret life, laid bare before my eyes. A life he was living with someone else, while still sharing a bed, a home, a life with me. The world went silent, my breath caught in my throat, a painful gasp that refused to escape. It wasn't just a knife to the heart, it was 1,000 tiny shards of glass, tearing through every piece of me. The images burned into my mind, her hand in his, her head on his shoulder, their smiles. A perfect, happy couple, just like we used to be. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was an emotional massacre. Every shared dream, every whispered promise, every tender touch, it all became tainted, twisted into a cruel mockery. I sank to the floor, the tablet still clutched in my hand, hot tears streaming down my face. The pain was all-consuming, a primal scream trapped inside my chest. It wasn't just the shock, it was the humiliation, the feeling of being utterly foolish, blind, and discarded. My perfect life, the one I had so carefully nurtured, was nothing but a fragile facade, meticulously constructed by a liar. The man I loved was a stranger, a masterful deceiver. And in that moment, something shifted within me. The heartbreak was immense, but beneath it, a tiny ember of something else began to glow. Something cold, something determined. It was the spark of a new resolve, forged in the ashes of my shattered world. I knew then that I wouldn't just crumble. I would rise, and Mark, my betrayer, would eventually understand the true cost of his secret life. The initial days after the revelation were a blur of grief and numbness. I moved through our home like a ghost, every corner, every object, a painful reminder of the life we had shared, a life built on a foundation of lies. Mark, oblivious to my discovery, continued his charade. He'd come home late, offer a tired kiss, and retreat into his world, completely unaware that his secret had been brutally exposed. This ignorance, this casual disdain for my existence, only solidified the cold resolve that had begun to form within me. I wasn't just hurt, I was profoundly disrespected. And disrespect, when it's so deeply ingrained, demands a response. I understood that confrontation, in the immediate aftermath, would only give him the upper hand. He would deny, he would manipulate, he would try to gaslight. No, I needed to approach this with precision, with strategy. I wasn't just looking for an argument, I was looking for justice. And justice, in my eyes, meant a reckoning that would expose his duplicity to the world, not just to me. I started by meticulously documenting everything. The photos, the messages, the travel plans, every piece of digital evidence was carefully backed up, stored in multiple secure locations. I researched legal avenues, understanding my rights and his obligations. I consulted with a trusted lawyer, laying out the chilling narrative of his deception. The lawyer's expression, a mix of sympathy and professional shock, confirmed that my situation was not only emotionally devastating but legally significant. During this period, I found strength in unexpected places. My best friend, Sarah, who had always been my rock, became my confidant. I showed her the evidence, and her initial shock quickly transformed into a fierce protective anger on my behalf. Her unwavering support, her quiet strength, became a crucial anchor in my storm. I also rediscovered a resilience within myself I thought I'd lost. The tears still came, but they were no longer tears of despair. They were tears of anger, tears of injustice, tears that fueled a burning desire for a future free from his shadow. I started working out, pouring my emotional turmoil into physical exertion. I focused on my career, channeling my pain into creative projects, achieving successes that would have once made Mark proud, but now only served to empower me. This wasn't about revenge in the destructive sense, it was about reclaiming my narrative, rebuilding my life, and ensuring that his actions would not go unaddressed. I was transforming my pain into power, my sorrow into strategy. And Mark, completely unsuspecting, was about to discover just how formidable a woman scorned could truly be. The groundwork was laid, the quiet storm was gathering strength. My outwardly calm demeanor during those weeks was perhaps the greatest performance of my life. Inside, a storm was brewing, but on the surface, I presented a picture of serene composure. Mark, still living in his bubble of deceit, began to drop his guard even further. He saw my silence as acceptance, my quietness as weakness. He probably assumed I was simply sad, perhaps even withdrawing, and he interpreted it as an opportunity to further pursue his secret life without interruption. This, of course, was exactly what I wanted. Every hurried phone call, every late night out, every vague excuse, I absorbed it all, cataloging it, building an irrefutable case against him. I discreetly reached out to a few trusted mutual friends, not to reveal everything, but to subtly plant seeds of doubt. I'd mention Mark's increasing absence, his evasiveness, observing their reactions, gauging their loyalty. I knew that when the truth finally erupted, I would need a support network, and I needed to understand who truly stood by me. Simultaneously, my lawyer was busy. We were preparing a comprehensive legal strategy, focusing not just on the divorce itself, but on the financial implications of his infidelity, the breach of trust, and the resources he had diverted to his secret life. This wasn't just about severing ties, it was about ensuring I was protected, and that he faced significant consequences for his actions. The process was painstaking, meticulous, and emotionally draining, but I refused to waver. Each document filed, each conversation with my legal team, solidified my resolve. My focus began to sharpen on Mark's professional life. He was a rising star in his company, a tech giant known for its ethical stance and commitment to integrity. His reputation, both personal and professional, was paramount. This was his Achilles heel. His secret life wasn't just a personal failing, it was a potential professional catastrophe, especially if exposed in the right way. I wasn't aiming to destroy his career out of spite, but to ensure that his actions had consequences that resonated beyond our shattered marriage. It was about accountability. It was about demonstrating that integrity, both personal and professional, truly mattered. The more I delved into his company's public policies, their employee conduct guidelines, the more convinced I became that his deception, once revealed, would send shockwaves through his carefully constructed world. The storm was no longer just brewing, it was ready to break. The winds of change were starting to howl, and Mark, still basking in his stolen happiness, was utterly unprepared for the tempest heading his way. The day arrived. The day I had meticulously planned, the culmination of weeks of silent preparation, tears, and unwavering resolve. It wasn't a direct confrontation. No shouting matches, no messy scenes. My approach was far more strategic, designed to expose his secret life to the people whose opinions truly mattered to him, his professional peers, his superiors, and the wider world that admired his carefully curated image. My lawyer had advised against a public spectacle, but I knew that for true justice, for a reckoning that would shake his foundation, I needed to leverage his greatest vulnerability, his reputation. I chose a moment of peak visibility. His company was holding a major industry event, a live-streamed conference where Mark was scheduled to give a keynote speech, showcasing his latest project. He was going to be in the spotlight, celebrated, lauded. And that, I realized, was the perfect stage for his carefully guarded secret to take center stage. Alongside him, my legal team had compiled all the irrefutable evidence, the photos, the messages, the financial records, the timeline of his deception. We didn't leak it to the press in a sensationalist way, that wasn't my style. Instead, a meticulously crafted, anonymous digital package, containing only the undeniable facts and evidence, was sent to a specific, carefully chosen group, key executives within his company, prominent industry journalists known for their investigative work, and a few influential online commentators. The timing was everything, just minutes before his scheduled keynote address. The impact was immediate and devastating. As Mark walked onto the stage, beaming, ready to deliver his polished speech, whispers started. Phones lit up, heads turned. The buzzing in the room wasn't anticipation, it was confusion, then shock. I wasn't there, not physically. I watched it unfold from afar, a quiet observer of the storm I had unleashed. A wave of emails, discreetly timed, started flooding the inboxes of his colleagues and the press. The images, the texts, the undeniable proof of his double life, spread like wildfire. On stage, Mark's confidence visibly wavered. His eyes darted around the room, sensing the shift, the sudden chill in the air. He tried to start his speech, but the energy was gone. His carefully constructed facade was crumbling, live, in front of thousands. He fumbled, he stammered, his face visibly paling as he scanned the now agitated crowd, sensing that something catastrophic had occurred. His career, his reputation, his carefully built world, was imploding in real time. The whispers turned into murmurs, the murmurs into gasps. His secret was out, and the payback, delivered with surgical precision, had just begun. The aftermath was a whirlwind. News outlets, initially cautious, quickly picked up on the story once the irrefutable evidence was verified. The initial whispers at the conference exploded into headlines. Techstars' double life exposed, ethical breach rocks industry giant, wife unveils shocking betrayal. Mark's company, known for its strict ethical guidelines, immediately launched an internal investigation. The public outrage was swift and brutal. The man who had cultivated an image of integrity and family values was now revealed as a master of deception. His carefully curated social media presence, once filled with glowing praise, was now inundated with furious comments, accusations of hypocrisy, and demands for accountability. His sponsors, quick to distance themselves from the controversy, began dropping him. Mark himself was, by all accounts, in a state of shock and disbelief. He called me repeatedly, frantic, enraged, begging, attempting to manipulate, demanding to know how I had done this. His pleas and threats, once so potent, now held no power over me. I simply listened, my resolve unshaken. I had known this would be painful, but seeing his world unravel, knowing it was the direct consequence of his choices, brought a strange sense of equilibrium. It wasn't about celebration, it was about the scales of justice finally balancing. He had built his kingdom on lies, and now it was falling. His company, after a swift but thorough investigation, announced his immediate termination, citing a severe breach of trust in company ethics. His once promising career was over, irrevocably damaged. The woman he had been seeing, realizing the full extent of his deception in the public scrutiny, also vanished from his life. For me, the immediate relief was immense. The crushing weight of his secret, the emotional burden I had carried, was finally lifted. The divorce proceedings, once contentious, now moved swiftly. With the public evidence of his infidelity and the severe damage to his income. The settlement was favorable, ensuring my financial security and allowing me to retain our home. But more than the legal victory, it was the feeling of reclaiming my own narrative that mattered most. I had refused to be a silent victim. I had chosen to expose the truth, not just for my own sake, but as a testament to the importance of integrity. The journey had been harrowing, but I had emerged on the other side, battered but not broken. The world had indeed been shocked by the payback, but it was a shock that had freed me, and in doing so, offered a profound lesson on the true cost of hidden betrayals. My perfect illusion had shattered, but in its place, a real, strong, and honest life was finally beginning to emerge. And this time, it was entirely mine. Life after the storm wasn't an instant return to sunshine and rainbows. The scars remained, deep and sometimes aching reminders of the betrayal. Trust, once freely given, was now a precious commodity, earned slowly and carefully.